Great,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words about me, Sanketji. I'm glad to be present with you all to share my understanding of writing, which has been the basis for our academic success always. As a professional teacher, researcher, reviewer, author, and poet for over 4 decades, with so many publications to my credit, I continue to get rejection slips from editors and publishers, which means one can't take writing for granted. Writing well is difficult, but research writing is more difficult because it is formal and convention bound. It requires a lot of skills and maturity at several levels. As we have noticed, the pressure for research and the lack of linguistic and organizational skills often result in poor quality documents such as questionnaires if you are working in social science area, or reports, or in government offices or other places, different kind of forms, or as faculty and scholars, your academic papers, project reports, articles, dissertation, thesis, and even in the office when you are writing letters and notes. So research scholars are often at a loss as to how to proceed with putting their data, information, knowledge about a subject into a coherent, clear, readable form. Unless they are aware of the problem areas they need to tackle before, during, and after writing, or unless they understand what it means to do a good job, they can't produce a publishable research paper or acceptable thesis or even reports. Friends, you can't just put pen on paper and writing will happen. Be very clear about it. It needs preparing and planning. It needs a lot of thinking, analyzing, interpreting, writing a draft, then rewriting, revising, editing, demonstrating your abilities, understanding, and performance at 3 levels: subject level, organizational level, and linguistic level. Be very clear about it. If you want to write on something, you must know what it is that you want to write about. You are competent, you make yourself competent to write. So you show that you have a reasonably good knowledge of your specialized subject, the research that you are working on, and you can communicate it formally in a manner that is acceptable in your discipline. Each discipline has a certain specifications in that format or in that style. They will accept something. If you submit something for a journal, you have to familiarize yourself how they expect you to write, what kind of matter they accept. So you have to show you can express yourself, your ideas logically and clearly. Logically is very important. Clearly, with a word sense, sentence sense, and paragraph sense. Even the cut and paste that we do often for a shortcut using your computer and internet information, this requires ability to arrange the material that you gather with a language sense, especially as you are writing in English, which is not your mother tongue, which is not your first language, which is your second language. You have to be more cautious to be acceptable by the first language speakers, which means, as a research scholar in English, if you are writing some paper and you want to submit it to a journal, and if your writing is not up to a level they expect from you, they say revise it, rewrite it, or they reject it. So if you try to plagiarize, which you should not do, there must be some method for doing it so that it is not plagiarism. Our other colleagues will talk about these things in detail. So if you try to merge someone else's ideas or text into your own idea or text, you may land in several problems, including the accusation of plagiarism. Very important these days, especially if you want to publish your paper. So as I said, research writing is formal. You need to understand how it is different from what is informal. When we speak, we are informal. Our speech is naturally full of excessive wordiness, needless repetitions, loose and imprecise statements, ambiguities, faulty diction, interruptions, digressions, interpolations, shifts from one tense to another, one person to another, defective logic, mixing. Sometimes you are writing your first sentence to describe, and suddenly you change suggesting, explaining, arguing. What you are doing, you may be shifting easily because it is possible when you are speaking, you are jumping from one point to another. You may sometimes not find the exact word for saying something. You may use a wrong word. You may omit the connecting expression, the connectives, or use a wrong connective expression. You may have a poor sequence of ideas. You may use slang. You may use non-standard vocabulary. All these things are normal. That shows that we are talking. So when we talk, we don't care about all those formal aspects of language that is important in writing. So a speaker may also not emphasize or not be able to emphasize what he considers is important. Or he may use physical gesture, eye movement, hand movement, or body movement to convey a particular idea, a particular word or concept which is not readily coming to mind. So you are informal. These are all aspects of informal, like I am doing at the moment. On a formal occasion, I am talking informally, mixing up, using short sentences, repeating. All these things are not possible when you write. You can't afford to be wordy, repetitive, ambiguous, or defective in sentence organization. You cannot be illogical. You can't use unrelated ideas. You can't digress in any way. And you don't have the advantage of eye and hand movement for saying something which an exact word is not coming to your mind. So you have to understand that writing is a form of intelligent communication among the educated person in a very specialized context. It is not automatic, it is not mechanical or indifferent process. You can't say because I'm writing about literature, so language is not my concern. Grammar is not my concern. What I'm writing is perfect, all right, as long as I'm talking about my specialist literary subject. It's a complex creative activity. And you have to treat it as such. And as I said, it requires three kinds of abilities, competence. Your subject, and if you are social science or technical engineering people, science people, your technical competence, scientific competence, your logical competence, logical ability, and linguistic ability. Which means you have prepared yourself to a level that you understand your subject and are ready to write about. You are trying to write as an expert, making an authoritative presentation of significant knowledge or information about something, about a subject, which you have explored deeply. And you say, I know about it. So if you know what you know, you should be able to arrange it in such a manner, organize in such a manner, using such a language, such a style, which is professionally acceptable, which makes the desired impact on the reader. If you are concerned with facts, for example, you need to communicate your facts objectively, directly, and unambiguously within a rhetorically acceptable, suitable format. You employ the linguistic and organizational strategies necessary to achieve a predetermined purpose. The way you write to organize your knowledge or ideas about the subject shows your professional competence. Generally, as we have observed, you need to be good at writing what we understand as expository prose, argumentative prose, narrative prose, and descriptive prose. These are four largely the used forms of writing that we have. And as you are using any of these compositions, you are following a logic. What is that logic? Either you are deductive or you are inductive. You are deductive means you are making some general observation and then slowly moving to specific observations, supporting with whatever studies you have made, with examples, with data, with lab work, with field work, and all that. Or you are inductive. You are first saying all that you have observed and arriving at some kind of a generalization, some kind of a theory. Or you are saying what is more important first and what is less important later. So from most important to less important. Spatial sense of the logic. Or you are using devices like explaining, describing, stating, analyzing, examining, evaluating, classifying, comparing, contrasting, whatever is appropriate at different stages of your presentation. So, knowing well the subject or the topic of your research and presenting your knowledge in various segments or sections, chapters, logically, in several paragraphs, using headings and subheadings, with clear connectivity, clear connection of ideas, and professional etiquette is very important. You have also to demonstrate intellectual integrity and authorial accountability in your organization of material. Because you are writing as a scholar, as an expert, accepting your responsibility for whatever you are writing. The trouble is, if they are returning your material, they find these things, this attitude is missing. For example, you have your primary discourse and you have secondary discourse. Primary discourse is the researcher's own ideas, or what you gather from fields, or what you gather from lab experiments and all that. And it is in support of a certain viewpoint, certain argument, certain hypothesis. Secondary discourse is the quotations, the references, the appendices, the questionnaires, the footnotes, all those details. So you have to be clear and correct to be professionally honest. You may argue and counter-argue using all those secondary sources with your intellectual integrity. Your attitude also counts. It is the attitude of utter seriousness, objectivity, and formality, as reflected in your choice of words and the way of saying what you want to say. For example, if you exaggerate or distort somebody's ideas or your data, you are motivated, you are trying to misinform, you are trying to impress rather than present correctly what you know or what you have gathered. Or if it is not clear whether you are suggesting, describing, explaining, criticizing something, you have not written well. You must be clear beforehand what exactly you want your readers to know. You have also to demonstrate control over your grammar, vocabulary, and as I said, sentence and paragraph structure. We have problem at this level, mostly. And using your non-verbal data, like charts, tables, diagrams, where necessary. And the more you use diagram, as I presented in a diagram, Sanketji, you can, if you can display that. So all these need an understanding of and emulating how successful researchers write, how they structure thinking. They spend a large part of their time planning before they write, just as they are willing to rewrite and revise their draft. These are two different things. They are ready to seek others' help in improving their draft through a process of constructive criticism and self-examination. I call it interactional process approach to writing, divided into pre-writing, writing, and post-writing, with possibilities for intervening both at pre-writing and writing stages as a vital stage to realize in full how a written text has been arrived at. Let's understand in detail the diagram. Let me take out the diagram. Here, please. Pre-writing is the most important phase of writing, preparation, planning. Knowing beforehand the objective of your writing project, what message you want to convey to the readers. Who are your readers? And what is the scope within which you will have to cover your subject matter? The choice of the content, the message that you want to convey, organization and language, the rhetorical format, where you need to describe, where you need to argue, where you need to criticize, where you need to discuss. You have to know these words. We blindly put this: explain. How to explain, Baba? Discuss. What is the scope of the word discuss? State. What do you do when it is asking you to state or you want to state? You have to know well how I'm going to do that. So when you determine scope, it means what message do you want to convey? The subject, how much, the length, or what kind of information is to be included in your presentation. If you are writing a research paper, how long it has to be. So the guidelines to the author has to be read carefully, and you have to arrange your information within that limit. If it is a thesis, whether it is 100-page thesis or 250-page thesis, you have to know. So that much material has to be generated before you can really sit to write. You have to know that. So clear idea of what you need to write and why. What is the purpose? Who is going to read? That will decide how much, in what way, and what should be shared with the reader. Who will read your document? Identify the reader. Will they be motivated to read it? Or they will just have a view and put it away? If it is a thesis or a research paper, you have an objective. I must get it published. I must get my MPhil or PhD. So how I had to present the knowledge or information in the document called thesis or research paper. So your knowledge of the audience who is going to read my paper, they are experts, they are well informed, they are interested in your topic. That's why they say, yes, we will consider to publish it. If they are not interested, they will say, find some other journal. Or if you have registered yourself, you have to present as per the guidelines that have been provided to you by the exam section, in what format your thesis has to be arranged. So you are aware before you write about the audience, their level, their background, their needs, their attitude, their motivation, and all these things will decide what you will be writing and how much you will be writing. If you are making a form or a questionnaire, your questions have to be written in such a way that your questions are understandable to the persons you are going to give. You are expecting certain response. So if the question is not properly framed, the response will not come. It fails as a document. Therefore, your research thesis or dissertation or any report must be written keeping in mind the background and the needs of the readers. When it comes to task, what do you expect your readers to do with your writing? You have to be very clear about it. Purpose focuses on the writer, but the task focuses on the reader. You expect something to achieve from your writing from the readers. You want them to do something. If it is a question, you expect them to answer. If it is a paper, you expect your editor to publish. If it is a thesis, you expect your supervisor to say, yes, it is fine. You expect the examiner to okay it and admit you to the degree that for which you have submitted. So you will be using your style, your material in such a manner, keeping in mind the needs of the reader. Then you have to also, before you can write something, determine constraints. What are the problems? Do I have the journals that I need? Do I have the resource of meeting my supervisor frequently? Do I have the books that I need? Do I have the specialist thesis by somebody else in some other university? Do I have to go and travel? Do I have uh, money enough to do the job? Do I have time to do what I want to do? So there are several constraints. There are material constraints such as finance, deadlines, page size or paper weight. They say that you can't use ordinary paper to write your thesis. It must be bond paper. Whether you have the graphic capabilities, how you can prepare visual of your document, research paper, or thesis. Then you have policy constraints. There are many things which you can't easily do. There could be certain documents which are restricted, which are classified. It is not easily available. It will not be made available. You may have to approach people, correspond with them, or there may be legislations or regulations about all these things. So there may be maps, for example, or some other kind of written material about which there may be constraints, problems of various kinds. Then system constraints. How your research fits into a program of the department, for example, their priorities, the government's guidelines, or other such policy guidelines of the institution that you are given, and whether you can do certain things that you want to do. Then research. As part of your writing process, research follows preparation, like what you are going to write about, why you are writing it, and how you are going to get to the goal. So for that, you make a lot of notes. You take notes, relevant information from various sources. So taking notes is again pre-writing exercise, jotting down key points, then bibliographic notes, subject notes, summary notes, critical notes, the details of the different kind, or interviews, for example, or discussion with your teacher, with your supervisor, other colleagues. You must make notes. So when I say bibliographic notes, it refers to the bibliographical aspects of publication. That is, the title, the subject matter, name of the author, the publisher, the year, the place of publication, page number. And if you are using virtual sources, then similarly, whatever the guidelines you find in different kind of journals or style manuals, you will be, somebody is, this is also part of your workshop, friends will be talking about that too. So all those details must be noted down so that when you are using any of those things in writing, you are not forgetting, oh, where from this matter I had noted down, which book or journal it had appeared, the source. Complete source must be noted down. You have to make it. Then quotation notes. What are the exact quotation from some source? They are put in inverted commas. When you are writing, it should not be mixed up with some other's writing or your own idea. You must separately write down the quotation with page number and, as I said, bibliographical details. Then, as you write down these quotations, don't ignore a small thing like punctuation. I know several universities have rejected thesis for want of wrong quotation, for want of mistakes in quotation mark, within the quotation what they have written. The original does not provide that, and you are providing something. Then subject notes. When you break down your topic of research into several chapters, there are certain factual information that you know, everybody knows, it is accepted and it is going to be used. So jot down those points. Within the points, jot down the notes of the subject matter. Very important. The subject of research and related notes that you have gathered from discussion, by reading different journals, books, etc., or you understood ideas that come to your mind. When you are deeply absorbed in your research work, lots of ideas come. And if you fail to catch those ideas in black and white, write them down, if you fail, they are missed, they disappear, they never come back to you. You will never get them back. So when I was doing research, I would keep some paper in my pocket and I would be thinking and writing on the road itself some point, some idea. Even in bathroom, I would be keeping a pen and paper, a notebook, and write down. Because once I miss those ideas, these are my ideas about a subject. I have spent 3 years doing research and I have started thinking, understanding my flashes. So those ideas, subject notes, I must write down to be used later. So there you can use abbreviations, you can use symbols, you can use signs or shortening techniques, but write down quickly so that they are not slipped. Then there is paraphrase notes. Paraphrase notes is very important. I mentioned in the beginning, cut and paste, which is blindly done by so many people. It is disappointing, but if you can use it systematically in your language, good. And it is possible to do that. You can read somebody's ideas and information that you have gathered and rewrite that in your language. How? Very simple. Direct, indirect you have done. If it is directly written, instead of quotation, you convert it into indirect language, then and there, keep that note. Or if you have read 2 paragraphs and you can convert that 2 paragraph into 3 sentences, you have done summary, you have done précis, make it short, write down quickly, a summary of it, summary notes, synoptic notes. If an idea is there and you expand it, paraphrase notes. Somebody has written something in one sentence, the same thing you are saying in 4 sentences, in one paragraph, paraphrase. Summary notes, somebody has written in 2 pages and you have written the same thing in 1 paragraph. Summarize it. Then critical notes, very useful in scholarly work. They are not copies, but a record of your own personal response to something that you read. Critical, somebody has said X and you are not agreeable to it, you want to say something different. You have a different point of view and you want to include it in your writing. So make note of that, what the criticism you want to make. Write down that to be used later. So you have several small notepads, for example, or you can have a copy, or you have what you call note cards, whatever suits you. You can also use different colors pen, that if I am paraphrasing, I'm using blue ink, and if I am summarizing, I'm using black ink. If I am directly quoting, I'm using red ink or green ink. You can keep it identifiable to you after 2 years, 3 years. When you sit down to write, things don't, you have gathered so much material, voluminous material, you have read and you have gathered so much that you need to arrange them. So you have to make notes from library sources by, as I said, using different journals and books and all, whatever. And you have to discuss with your experts, your teachers, your colleagues, and others whom you know who can help you. So what you discuss, you have to keep that. You do not know how much of all these notes are going to be actually used, how and where, when you sit down to write. So if you don't have the material, what will you write? Your subject competence, as I talked about, is reflected in the notes that you have gathered, the ideas that you have generated in your mind, the points that you have to cover, that you have tentatively presented in the synopsis before registration, for example, or the abstract that you have given to a seminar presentation beforehand, or the abstract that you have written for publication in the journal, the full article. They are all related. They are helping you to present what you want to. So when you have arrived at a reasonable subject level of your ability, of your competence, of your readiness to write, then you prepare an action plan for writing. Outline framework for writing. What I'm going to write first, and what are the related information in different notes that I have with me, and how I am going to begin. Prepare an outline for each chapter. What is the illustration, the chart, the diagram you might like to make? So you have to make an action plan for writing. The method you want to develop, you want to use to develop your writing, where you will describe, where you can argue, where you can make suggestion, where you can criticize, what style I'm going to use. And I told you all those four largely expository presentation. Exposition is what you know. So when you have developed for writing purpose, the first draft has to be quickly written using the notes, outlines that you have prepared for each paragraph, I should say, in each chapter, in each section of the chapter or for the paper that you are writing. You develop your notes and outlines into appropriate paragraphs. But when I say you have to develop it that way, appropriate, when you are writing your first draft, your concentration is not on accuracy, not on logic, not on what I said in the beginning, those qualities of acceptable writing. Your concentration is on the subject matter. So quickly write as fast as you can the draft, whatever ideas are coming and whatever ideas you have arranged systematically to develop the first draft. So write clearly whatever is coming to your mind, whatever you have developed in the note for, whatever outline that you have prepared for a day that you are sitting to write. Write complete as ideas come to your mind. A flow, don't interrupt your flow and try to exhaust as much of the material that you have prepared before writing, that you have collected, and write. Okay? Giving headings and subheadings where you can put. Very necessary, headings and subheadings. Don't care whether I am using my language which is formal. Don't care whether the paragraphs are linked or not. Don't care if the ideas are getting mixed up. Just complete. Put the whole draft to cool down mentally for yourself and the knowledge that you have put in black and white for some time. 15 days, 20 days. You can go and enjoy yourself or start working on some other section of the chapter of the thesis or other aspect or other work. So that will be the stage after some time to read your draft critically, check for different purposes. Does it achieve the purpose for which it has been composed? Pay specific attention to sentences where there is mistake, where there is unnecessary, unrelated thing, where there is need for grammar, there is need for connectives. Your, language, style, or what we normally say, the discourse organization. What you have said and how you have said. You have to share it with your teacher after that, supervisor. You have to share it with your other colleague and friend whom you trust, who can help you, whatever comment they make, and you record their observations, their comments, their suggestions, and you yourself think what you have not done. What you have done and what you are going to do further is a job which requires patience. You reread your draft, you read your peer comments, your supervisor's comments, you read the feedback that you have gathered, and they are the guidelines for you to go back to your draft to write and rewrite again, to revise. And then, where necessary, you are cutting brutally if it is exceeding the limits, for example. If it is not possible to be published, if it is not ready for submission, or if it has been sent for revision, then all those things again you are going back to the pre-writing stage and writing stage to critically examine what you have written. You review your draft, you reread, you read whatever comments that have been given, and accordingly you revise and edit the draft. If necessary, you are going back to the writing stage. If necessary, you are going back to the pre-writing stage. If necessary, you are going back to some other people for suggestions and advice, and you are doing it again before the final draft is ready. So that final draft can be submitted accordingly. So I said you need good understanding of the subject. You need good presentation, organization of what the subject is, and you have good language sense, attitude, presentation to be acceptable for publication. Thank you. Hope I made sense with what I said.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. If there is any question, we can take the question if time is there.
Sir, what you told about the difference between primary discourse and secondary discourse? Sir, can you please explain again?
What was the question? Difference between primary discourse and
secondary
secondary
discourse.
discourse?
Yes, sir.
Primary discourse is the knowledge that you have gathered, which is a general understanding, number one, and which is related to the subject you have understood from discussion, from work that you have done, readings that you have done, is your information. What is your original contribution? Normally, everywhere it is asked, what is your contribution in this paper? Why we should read and publish it? Because you have something new to say. You have said something which others have not said, because they don't know about it and you know. So what you know, you have presented. That is your discourse, primary discourse. The secondary discourse is the information or related information that you have collected from other sources, which is somebody else's knowledge, not your knowledge. Others have provided it by way of research articles, by way of publications, by way of books that you have consulted. It is secondary sources. The way you organize that is discourse. I said writing, research writing is a way of writing. So the way you organize others' information. So how it is simpler if you want to organize others' knowledge. This is where you have to develop skill. I said summary, I said paraphrase, I said narrating, I said summarizing. So somebody else's information that you are saying using, citing the exact source. how much of somebody's information you can use. Copyright rules are there. Guidelines of the journals will be there for using in paper. Not more than 20%. You must use for scholarly regions. To sound scholarly, you must use minimum 5 to 10% of somebody's information related information in your review section in the introductory chapter, as somebody will be doing that part too in writing. Therefore, I have not talked about it. The introductory chapter will need all that skill where you have to summarize the work done before you and you have to relate your work to their work and say what is new about it. So, what is new about it, as you say in the following chapters, that is your primary discourse organization. But what is not your writing, what is somebody else's writing that you are using, is secondary discourse. So, discourse organization, language skill, grammatical ability, these are all very necessary. You can't say, I am writing literature, therefore language is not my concern. People will not publish you and you will not get your degree also, if it goes to somebody who is not kind to you. So language, linguistic ability is primary. Organizing the subject knowledge that you have and the subject knowledge that you have gathered from the other sources. So other sources, secondary discourse arrangement. I'm using the discourse word because it includes all those communication skills and the organization of presentation when you are attending a seminar and all that.
Thank you, sir. I followed.
So, how to improve writing skills?
How to improve? By rewriting. Writing means rewriting. You write several times till you are satisfied with writing. It doesn't, as I told you in the beginning, you can't put your pen on paper and writing will happen. It will need a lot of effort. You have to write and rewrite.
Okay, sir.
So, one question. Sir, how to make an action plan?
Action plan means what you want to write first and what you want to write later. Number one. This is according to the topic. This is according to the subject matter that is to be logically developed. It is to be logical. Logical means you are following a sequence, an order for saying something first and saying something later. So, what will be that order of your saying that writing? You say in the beginning what you want to say, then say it, and then say later what you have said. That is what ensures logicality of your presentation, ordering of your presentation. So that notes that you make, the outlines that you make for each section, each part of a paper or a thesis or a chapter, you have to know how much information I have collected, how much knowledge I have developed. You have made note of it, put that in a sequence, first of all, and then start writing using that. And when you have exhausted, then cool it down, let the matter cool down, and you take your time after 10 days, 15 days, 1 month, 2 months to read again critically and then see. So, preparing the action plan is deciding in yourself in what order I am going to write my primary material and my secondary material. You must have all those things in the name of research. You can't simply roam about and say, my research is happening, I'm reading and I've done. As you read, it must be active reading, reading with making notes, reading with thinking. If you think, you will be getting your own subject understanding, your own critical notes. Am I clear?
Got it, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hello,
Yes, Sushant.
sir. Yes, sir. I have a question that can we use both methods, inductive and deductive methods, simultaneously and synchronically, or in a different chapter? Can we use both methods
Sure.
differently?
You should. It is a matter of style, and
Yes.
sometimes you are following, but in the same paragraph, you can't be deductive and inductive. In the
But in a
same
different paragraph.
in the same section, you shouldn't be changing that style. You can be following, but after that whole section, you have completed. So if you change the
Yes.
style, it is good, not bad. In literature, it
Okay.
is
Thank you.
possible. In some disciplines, it may not be possible. In science and engineering, it may not be possible because it is a matter of proving. Your research itself decides where you can be deductive and where you can be inductive. If there is a general theory, if there is a theory and you are elaborating that theory to support, then you have to be following from general to specific details. You have to be
Thank you.
deductive there. Yeah.
Sir, hello. Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, Binodji.
Sir, no question, but a request. And the request is, first my observation, I am still listening to the same R.K.Singh of ISM Dhanbad.
Thank you. Thank you.
The second is that for the last 2 months, I have read quite a lot of your poems. And I want to inform the audience members of this august house that Professor Singh is the living legend in terms of haiku writing. And in the present context, the way literary researches are being carried out, I think it would be nice if we can listen to some of the lines of the haiku by Professor Singh, not confined only to academics, but to something else, so that because research is a very academic matter. And let the audience also have some amount of emotionalism through your haiku, some of your haikus, if you remember.
Vinodji, I have withdrawn from academics after retirement, and I have been concentrating only on my poetry, because something which I could not do when I was not getting time. In fact, with 2-3 colleagues and teaching so many courses. But after retirement, I said I will forget everything till you ask me I should do this job. So I did it in response to your request. Otherwise, normally I simply don't get involved in teaching and all that. I forget. I've forgotten. The reading of Give me a
Very
minute.
possible from the latest one.
I'll bring my diary.
In fact, this year floated a course on MOOC, that is Indian Poetry in English. And I have included several poets. And there is one section which is haiku writing in English. And I have taken two haikuists. One is late T. Basudeva Reddy, and he is a legend, Professor R.K. whose books have been translated into the language of the world. So I also inform this house, especially the students, that if they time, they can go through that course on Indian poetry in English. It's available freely on the website, on NPTEL website.
You want me to read haiku?
Some of the haikus, yes.
I would like to read from my latest book, Silence, Avoid Distrust, which has been translated into Spanish first, then Japanese, then Arabic. I read a few haiku from here. Ever evading happiness for now, unfinished song. Ever evading happiness for now, unfinished song. Still lingers her scent on the linens, drying in shade. Lemon tea, shade of her lipstick on my lip. Filling emptiness, waves dance over each other. The sky meets the sea. Closed eyes, smelling the cleavage, crescent veins. Brightness of the star, half-closed bedroom window, moon shies away. Something awaits, don't know what it is, feeling on edge. Hesitating to take the first step through, stands at the door. Silk silence, the sky measures, new cup of joy. White moon, shadowless, folding laundry.
Wow.
Sunset, smoke and mirror, muddy path. On the terrace, facing the sun, an empty chair.
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful.
Thank you, sir.
My honor.
Wonderful.
No. When I arranged in my books the different haiku composed at different points of time, they might create that kind of impression, which is again a literary matter to be explored. But when you compose a haiku, it is a complete poem in itself. Within 3 lines,
Sir, you are muted. think, Sanket, for this you will have to arrange another series of lectures.
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
No,
Good
I
afternoon
can't
to all
hear.
of you. Do- I think I should wait for some time.
So, since it is time, I must congratulate the Department of English and especially Professor Bachchan sir and all the respected members, faculty members of the department who actually thought it timely to arrange such a workshop on research writings. Because we always feel that organizing something in Darbhanga, it actually becomes a sort of remote possibility, even in an age of internet and other resources. But then, sir, under your leadership, it has been possible. And you have a poet also with you, Punita ma'am. So she might well know how difficult it is to amalgamate poetry, reasoning, research,
Everything.
plagiarism, and many more.
Thank you. You'll be with us for
I'm
the
always with
workshop.
you people.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us. Special
Thank you,
thanks.
ma'am.
Thank you, Vinodji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sanket, you can just call him over phone. Yes, yes. Sir is joining, I think.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Honorable guests, resource persons, professors, and research scholars and students. A very warm good afternoon to all of you. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks for today's session on this in this online faculty development program come workshop on research writing. On behalf of the entire Department of English, LNMU, and research fraternity present here, I extend a very hearty vote of thanks to our chief speaker, Professor R.K.Singh sir, for sharing such insightful session about the process approach to research writing and sharing with us your valuable opinions. This workshop is meant to disseminate the knowledge in the field of research and discuss the effective research writing techniques we would need in order to produce a substantive and sophisticated research. Sir, as you said in the beginning, writing requires a lot of patience, hard work, and perseverance, and also staying ready for the rejections, which we are already facing every day, and still striving again and again to fit for the field. Also, we learned how to. These are already such motivating thoughts you have put in us. Also, we learned how to be aware of our problem areas. Research writing, as you said, needs preparation, planning, thinking, analysis, and interpretation. We need to understand the levels of writing, namely subject level, organization level,
I'm
and
not
research level.
getting connected, Sanket.
Should I stop or continue? Sanket,
Sanket, you
unmute
connecting
yourself.
over the Sanket, you connecting over phone.
Okay. Uh, Along with these levels of writing, also the logical, the maintaining the language sense in writing, the knowledge of subject, logical competence, and linguistic sensibility. All these points are made. We are all going to keep it in our minds while writing our thesis, and this was much required for all of us in current session, while we are all striving in writing our thesis and research papers and getting published. The ways of utilizing and using primary and secondary discourses, they mention in the references, citation, and bibliography. All these were very useful tips and also very useful information for us. The elaborate diagram that Sir shared about pre-writing, writing, and post-writing stages were worth saving. I hope you all have saved it for further use. These are worth saving and employing in our research adequately. To understand our readers is a necessary aspect for sure whenever you are in writing, be it creative or critical. Even in FB post, if you are making an FB post, you must need whom are you writing these to. So definitely to understand our readers is a necessary point. And as Sir said, the purpose is definitely for writers to please their readers and to impress their readers, respectively in creative and critical writings. And definitely the expectations is falls in hands of readers what they want from us. So definitely we for surely we need to excel all this. And as Sir said, even a punctuation mark, if distorted during quoting, can cause us major troubles in the field of research writing. So the various ways to keep notes and saving our ideas from slipping, the various methods of paraphrasing, critical notes, and steps from drawing outlines, writing first draft, and reach through stages to the final draft. All this I'm going to say arduously. I just want to. I wish I could record all this session so I could use it at times on daily basis in my thesis writing process. I'm sure all other research scholars present here have benefited profusely while getting to learn these techniques with such intricacies and details. Also, this session has not only been beneficial for us in matter of content, but also how to be presentable and communicative with your audience or listeners. We, as we are all aspiring to become professors in future, we definitely need to communicate our ideas in a lucid and easy way to our students, listeners, and wherever we are able to present ourselves. Along with these writing skills, we also got to learn how to be presentable and communicative with our audience. While listening to Sir is surely going to be a memorable thing. We rarely find such opportunities to listen to a poet and scholar like R.K. Singh sir. And I suggest, Sir Bachchan sir, I would suggest we should organize a different poetry session from sir. We need this.
Okay, okay,
At least
okay, okay.
students of literature like me, I just love his poems.
I agree with you. We all agree with you.
We should
Vinod sir
organize.
also agrees with
We
Whole
should.
you.
department agrees.
Vinod
We
sir
should
also
grab.
agrees with you.
We should grab some of his busy schedule for us. These poems were such valuable and they were so intricate and delicate. I could have written a research paper on this. I think.
Thank
And
you.
another thing, I also wish to thank all of the student and research scholars present here. Their questions definitely added curious and new aspects in the discussion. So definitely, I'm thankful to department, Chudi sir, Punita ma'am, Sanket sir, Vinod sir for appearing and endow in for illuminating our thoughts. And definitely, we should organize such sessions again and again. Also, the rest days of the workshop are surely awaited from all of us and will be endowed with such great speakers every day. I'm looking forward to it. Hope you all join again and we collectively pay thanks from the department and our research scholars to all our speakers and resource persons and our teachers. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
So today
Thank you, Vinodji, once again. Thank you.
Thank you,
Everybody.
Vinodji, for being throughout
Thank
with.
you.
Okay.
Hmm. Only you are connected. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I think now you should terminate this session because people are now waiting for food, not only for food for thought. Thank you.